Resistance is futile. The Borg are one of the most infamous groups not only in Star Trek but in sci-fi as a whole. The phrase resistance is futile is permanently in a lexicon of sci-fi pop culture. Space zombies, the collective, the hive, the Borg, whatever you call them, they're a terrifying representation of what bioengineering, augmentation, and technology as a whole can do to a civilization if unchecked. But like many Trekkies, have you ever wondered how they came to be? Ever wondered what circumstances led to their creation? Today we use canon, myth, science, and current technological trends to make one of the greatest Star Trek and science fiction as a whole assumptions, and to ask one thing: where did the Borg come from? Now, for those of my viewers who are really into not wanting to watch extended content, let me just say that the easy answer for this in both scenarios that I'm going to be discussing today is humans. Humans are the origin of the Borg. They are species number one. So there you go. I'm happy, everybody. That was great. And have a great day. All right. Now, for anybody who stuck around because they wanted to know why I decided to say humans and why there's two basic myths, one of non-canon and one something that I put together based on canon and some observations made on the board, why I feel that in both scenarios is human. Now, in this video, I wanted to cover what the non-canon source was from the novels, okay? And I'll get into that in a moment. And what the novels have to say about the origins of the Borg, how I feel about that, okay? And then I'll get into who I feel and what I feel is the origins of the Borg based on my extensive knowledge of Star Trek canon. Anyway, based on the knowledge I have of Star Trek canon. Now, my hopes is that through this, I'm going to examine current science, our current technological trends, how we interface, speed, augmentation, cyborgs, all of these types of things. Hopefully, we're going to cover a lot of information that you guys will find both interesting and entertaining. And like I said, hopefully give you an idea of some kind of basis or theory of why some people want to and need to figure out the origins of the Borg. So let's talk about the Star Trek Destiny novels. Gods of Night, Mere Mortals, and Lost Souls. Again, this is the Star Trek Destiny series novels, and they are not considered canon, but I really like the way that they dove into the origins of the Borg from what they seem fit to do. Now, these were a series of novels released in 2008 by the author David Mack. Now, this novel series mixes characters from TNG, the Titan series, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager. So if you're interested in outstanding Star Trek content, but you don't mind the fact that it's non-canon, I highly recommend this series. Now, Mr. Mack's story focuses on the inhabitants of a planet called Aragol, right? And these inhabitants were called the Kaliar. Now, according to Mr. Mack, the species of the Kaliar were highly advanced species, but the thing is they were non-organic. But the closest thing that you can reference them to was the programmable matter from the future, and we'll get into that in a moment. But needless to say, these Kaliar were composed mostly of this stuff called catoms, which would later become used as Starfleet's programmable matter. Now, according to these novels, it's stated that the Kaliar ran into the USS Columbus, I believe it was, back in the Enterprise type days, all right, where because they still had Makos aboard the ship. Or was it the USS Columbia? It was the USS Columbia. Now, without giving too much away from these outstanding novels, we're going to focus on one of these Kaliars named Seddon. Now, because of some events where the sun went supernova, okay, it caused the destruction of their particular homeworld. Erigol. Basically, also this destruction caused a lot, basically most of the inhabitants of Eridol to die. They became mostly extinct, but there were several survivors that ended up surviving and traveling throughout distant points in time. Now, they decided to take the surviving members of the Columbia crew with them. It was like six of them, most of them Makos. Now, the important thing that you need to know about Seddon, according to Mr. Mack, is that Seddon was one of the only individuals of the Celia race that was against even talking to the humans of the Columbia, because these people were kind of xenophobic. But the thing is that they wanted to explore. They wanted to go out and meet new species. They wanted to learn from them and add basically to their culture. But Seddon was basically against this. Now, the thing about the Kaliar is that they're basically immortal, and it was a system that was designed on their homeworld, Eridol. But see, the thing is, Eridol is destroyed now, so they don't have a power source now to basically give them that immortality. So, trying to work with the surviving members of the Columbia, they was trying to figure out different ways and methods of making a power source so that the remaining Celiar could survive. Eventually, the species of Celiar ended up absorbing each other. Okay, some through force and some through people just sacrificing themselves for the rest of the remaining Celiar people. Now, through all of this, the Makos that was with them had left, and they went down trying to figure out how they could survive, trying to find food and all that kind of stuff, and found out, hey man, this is not going to work. So we need to go back to this habitation, this colony that we was just at. And but little did they know that Seddon had basically absorbed everybody else. And because she had now become, full of hunger and, lost most of her memory because of the lack of being on planet Eridol, she decided to forcefully blend or devour the Makos. Okay, so she ended up eating one, no, she ended up absorbing two Makos and having those two Makos eat the remaining Mako for substance. And she ended up putting those people to sleep. And those two Makos would be the first Borg drones. So, who is Seddon in a collective, you may ask? All right. Now, the thing about Seddon is that Seddon is the representation of the collective. So, when you see the queen, those are avatars of Seddon. Now, the thing about Seddon is that when she joined with the humans using what they refer to in the book as catoms, which is what we previously discussed as being programmable matter, it turned the Makos into basically what we know of now as the basis of the Borg drone, cybernetic organisms. These catoms are also responsible and would mutate into what we will later become known as Borg nanites. Now, the thing about the omega particle and why that's so important to the Borg, according to Mr. Mack, is that the omega particle is a source of pure, perfect energy, which would be able to sustain the Seddon's culture, which I'm going to tell you how did they become named Borg. Because as Seddon was forcefully absorbing one of the Mako's last thought to himself was, I don't want to be a cyborg, hence the name Borg. Now, in a process of looking for the omega particle, Saturn instructed the Borg collective to assimilate all species that could add biological and technological distinctiveness to their own, which is basically a bastardization of what the higher members of the Kaliar wanted in the first place when they wanted to drop their xenophobia and expand out into the universe. Think of it like how V'ger's programming was bastardized from its original mission as Voyager out into space before it became absorbed and merged with another alien entity. Its programming was bastardized, okay? So that was Mr. Mack's interpretation of the origin of the Borg, and I highly recommend his novel series, the Star Trek Destiny Lost Souls, or the Star Trek Destiny novel series. But before we continue, a word from our sponsor. Has the spouse been complaining about the member downstairs? Has she been complaining that the Horrigon isn't the stiff wood it used to be? Well, come on down to Starfleet where you can jump right into the transporter using your old transporter pattern and come out rejuvenated. The side effects include not remembering the last 20 years of your marriage, but to some that would be a great thing. Come on down. Okay, so now I wanted to get into my origin story of the Borg. But there are some small things that we're going to have to cover first. Now, it could be heavily debated the type of species the Borg was before they began venturing out into space, assimilating a variety of other species. One thing we do know about the Borg, though, is that their infrastructure, their ship designs, all of that, the corridors, is all leans toward a humanoid based design and origin. And you can even say that this is more supported by the fact that nobody's ever seen a non humanoid Borg drone or anything else for that matter. Now, I do believe there has been a Borg Tribble, but that was from the comic series, and that was something that they were trying to smuggle Borg nanites. They reactivated inside of a Tribble. The Borg did not try to assimilate a Tribble. So that being said, I also believe that there were Borg dogs, but that was stupid. And also, the Borg never assimilated that. It was something that happened as an accident. That being said, we have never seen in canon a non-humanoid Borg drone. Now, that being said, I would be remiss if I didn't mention species 8472, which is a non-humanoid species that the Borg did try to assimilate. But that being said, you have never seen species 8472 as a drone, so I'm going to stick with my original thought. So the important thing about the Borg speech thing is we will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. And just like I've put on screen, what distinctiveness means. As such, this could explain why the Borg only go after a humanoid species as far as the biology is concerned, because a non-biological species or even a species that's evolved to its greatest potential but wouldn't fit in the realm of the Borg and its society wouldn't be considered. Think of species like the Sheliak or the Horta or the even the Tholians. Imagine for some reason, they're able to assimilate a Tholian and have a Tholian drone on their ship. Think of the environmental conditions necessary to sustain a Tholian and how different they would be from the requirements of anything else that's on the Borg ship. Either the Tholian going to explode or the rest of the drones are going to get incinerated. And if you want to even consider it further, think about the Borg's avatar, the Queen. Her representation is of a humanoid. The novel, the advanced, the unique, even unknown technology that fits into those categories would add distinctiveness to the Borg, extending and even advancing their own biotech based on a humanoid physiology. But let's make some other assumptions. You got to admit, in a grand scheme of Star Trek aliens, there aren't many non-humanoid species. One of the tropes in Star Trek, one of the jokes, one of the running gags is that all you have to do is change the forehead prosthetics, maybe a little face paint, and there you go. You got an entirely new alien species. Of course, they gave a reason for this in the episode of The Next Generation called The Chase, but we're not going to get into that at the moment. So, because of those reasons, I can safely say that the Borg started off at least humanoid. Now, let's talk about the Briori. Now, hailing from the Delta Quadrant, the Briori were a highly advanced alien civilization that over hundreds of years abducted humans from the Alpha Quadrant for the purposes of slave labor. One of these colonies was featured in a Star Trek Voyager episode, The 37s. According to canon, they were fairly humanoid species. Now, the assumption that I wanted to make was that we know, according to Star Trek Voyager canon, there are no more Briori, or at least no one has encountered any more Briori. And we know for a fact that the abductions stopped. Now, the thing we know is also that humans revolted against the Briori. And we do know how humans under stressful situations, what they can resort to and what they can do. Let's hear one of our favorite interpretations of humans from our favorite character, Quark from Deep Space Nine.
Something about humans, nephew. They're a wonderful, friendly people. As long as their bellies are full and their holosuites are working. But take away their creature comforts. Deprive them of food, sleep, sonic showers. Put their lives in jeopardy over an extended period of time, and those same friendly, intelligent, wonderful people will become as nasty and as violent as the most bloodthirsty Klingon.
So now you have a situation where you have all of these liberated humans. And when I say all of these liberated humans, it's reasonable to assume that they didn't just kidnap for slave labor 37 people for one particular colony. It's reasonable to assume that they kidnapped over hundreds of years, far more than just 37 individuals for various colonies for various types of slave labor. Let's not even get into Atlantic slave trade and the example that we could use simply just with that. As a result, we don't know which colony it was or if it was the Briori homeworld. You were left with a situation of humans who are now in a situation where they have all of this advanced technology at their disposal and what they're going to do. So let's talk a little bit about humans in Star Trek. Actually, no, let's leave the realm of Star Trek for a moment and into the realm of sci for real. Humans are amazing innovators. Humans have a great combination of intelligence, curiosity, imagination, and determination that has historically made them unmatched in growth. In roughly 300-year time span, humans went from leaving their uh, superstitious intelligence behind and on the verge of creating artificial intelligence. Now, I've seen this excellent video on the 10 different types of AI, and I'm going to leave the link to that video below because I think that although I use it a little bit in this video, I think it was outstanding information, and the creator should get a reference to the great material and trouble he put together. And if you guys want to take a listen to what he put together and how succinct and outstanding the information was, like I said, I'm going to leave the link below. But what I found particularly interesting is how the evolution of AI and a human condition would closely mimic this subject that we're talking about today. I wanted to start with the AI level of reasoning AI. This is the type of artificial intelligence that can reason what you want, what your desires may be. It's the type of AI that says Siri and those types of things would work upon, where they look at your search history and kind of give you ideas and what to buy and all these types of things. Reasoning AI has taken a lot of the effort of our daily lives out of our daily lives and made a lot of things a lot more streamlined and simple. Even technology as a whole itself has taken a lot of the mundane things, a lot of the skills that we would normally think would be hardcore skills, survival type skills, and made them a thing of the past, things that are now alien to us. For instance, when was the last time you had to go hunting for food? When was the last time you knitted a shirt or a coat? Maybe pumped well water? When was the last time you cut wood to build a fire? When was the last time you built a fire or built a shelter for that matter? Like I was saying 300 years ago, this wasn't just a skill. These wasn't just skills, but these were necessary life skills. Technology is advancing so quick that even Gen Zers would find millennial technology alien. Give a Gen Zer a rotary phone, tell them to dial 911 and save their life. We'll be going to a funeral the next day. You see, in an effort to streamline and make our days more productive and make our lives a lot easier and give us more time to do the things that we like to do, we've devoted a lot of the skills and processes that we would normally find necessary for humans to computers and to the mechanized to technology and now to artificial intelligence. There was something that the android Adam said once to Mud and Captain Kirk, and I think Spock was present at the time, about how Adam was basically going to use the androids to take over the galaxy.
Curious, Norman. Just how do you intend to stop them?
We shall serve them. Their kind will be eager to accept our service. Soon they will become completely dependent upon us.
Their aggressive and acquisitive instincts will be under our control.
We shall take care of them.
All right, first of all, excuse me for calling him Adam. I was having a moment. But just like Norman says, Norman says that they can take over the galaxy slowly because they're androids. They can do it over, AI, they could do it over time. Time is irrelevant to them. They take over by basically tending to humans, taking care of our every needs. And as such, we will lose the skills necessary to do things like run our own equipment, live our own lives and stuff like that. Nowadays it's all about speed, connectivity, how fast we can consume media and everything like that. That was one of the reasons I put the short answer at the beginning of my video. Gone are the days of accidental information in our lives. It was a time where you'll have to research something, and through research and reading, trying to figure out the answer to your question, you'll come across other things other pieces of information that would expand your horizon and knowledge base. Nowadays, we just ask the AI what we want, and we trust the answer that it gives. Nowadays we can't even go through our day without, some type of interface with people, whether it's through TikTok, Facebook, or all those types of applications. We even got to the point where we start to make our own artificial realities, metaverse, but we'll get into that later. So I'm a gamer, right? And when I was a kid, I used to have this game system called an Atari. And for the likes of me, I just used to think that the information going from my brain to my hands to the controller to the system was just lacking. Like the hand-eye coordinate, it was just some type of deviation in between the speed of that. Needless to say, I was just a terrible player back in the day. I got a lot better. But I used to blame it on that. And I used to think, man, if only there was some kind of way to hook this controller wire to my head to where I can eliminate all of that, then this would be the greatest game ever. I would never get killed. And the thing is that little did I know that was the first step at a neural interface, something that was unheard of at the time. But think of, the Neuralink, but we'll get into that also later. So the thing is, though, is that we had these arcades that eventually popped up, and we used to go to the arcades and everything, and we'll go into the, play games and everything, meet people in the neighborhood, some kids from, parts of the neighborhood that we weren't familiar with, and we'll have fun. We get to mingle, we get to socialize, we'll play games, all those types of things. Nowadays, though, because of connectivity, I can do mostly those same things without the physical presence with people all over the world. Our thoughts, our ideas, our dreams and goals, the realm of disseminating those types of things from, on an individual basis out into the world for people to consume is getting smaller and faster and everything like that. And at each step, we lose certain abilities that we once had. And the simplest would be this. When was the last time you remembered someone's phone number? In my day, that was a necessity. You had to remember people's phone numbers, man. They wasn't stored in those cell phones, man. You had to remember people's phone numbers. So, if there was a situation that arose, I found myself out, the side story. I found myself out, my phone died and everything like that. And I had to use the phone to call somebody to come pick me up. And for the likes of me, I couldn't remember anyone's phone number. Now that is a skill that I gave away to my phone, to the technology. So I was talking about hooking my head up to a video game to kind of offset my lack of video game abilities with hand-eye coordination. And I was talking about how not only that was the first step at being connected, but that was the first step of being a cyborg. And what is a cyborg? Basically, a cyborg is an organic life form augmented by inorganic or technological devices. Geordie LaForge, cyborg. Cyborg from Marvel, is a cyborg. My sister with the prosthetic leg, cyborg. Now, of course, at the time, there was no such thing as a Neuralink, so I regulated that to the world of science fiction. But little did I know it would become a realm of science reality. lost limbs, replaced organs, visor eyeballs, skin grafting, even BBLs. We even have soft implants like Fitbits and smart glasses. So let's get back on artificial reality or the metaverse, shall we? A place in virtual reality where people over vast distances can share ideas, thoughts, have fun, interact in various different ways in real time. You can even buy property or art. This was a system that was designed to break the borders not only the boardroom, but of barriers and borders. Cultures and ideas, like I said, are shared in real time. Now, what does all this have to do with the Borg and how they originated in Star Trek? What I wanted to do was draw a comparison between how the humans of Earth would mimic the humans of the Delta Quadrant that were kidnapped by the Briori, even though there was vast distances between the two. Human nature would still progress along those same lines. And even with 300 years at their disposal of this Briori advanced technology, I believe that it would have advanced even faster than the last 300 years here on Earth. Eventually, the humans of the Delta Quadrant would have learned how to use the Briori technology rather quickly. And not only that, they would have been helped and guided by at the lowest level, a reasoning AI that the Briori had already incorporated in their infrastructure and technology in the first place. With that reasoning AI, they can ask the AI questions of how to use the Briori technology, further increasing their effectiveness of using the Briori technology. These humans would begin in integrating basically the Briori technology into the technology that they already knew and were accustomed to from their own time periods here on Earth. So now we get into the realm of artificial general intelligence, which we're on the verge of now as a civilization here on Earth. Now, there's always been a scare for a artificial general intelligence forming here on Earth, and due to movies and books and stuff like that, there's a reason in society for that. Even in the best scenario, we would become totally dependent on the AGI to run our energy, our infrastructure, we wouldn't even drive anymore because the AGI would take control of we would give it control of our vehicles to have it automatically just drive us anywhere. It's one of the things that we're seeing right now with the Tesla vehicles. It would take the need to figure out how long to brush our teeth, how long to sit on the toilet or take showers. All of these things would start to be controlled by the AGI for the civilization. And the people would willingly begin giving up these things in the hopes that they will have more free time to engage in, virtual reality realms to enjoy themselves. Now, there's a reason I spoke on the metaverse. Think of Unimatrix Zero from the episode of Voyager Unimatrix Zero. Basically, it was a realm that most Borg inhabited during their regeneration process that was, in essence, a metaverse. And I believe these humans of the Briori existing more and more in this metaverse because their normal lives are being ran by the AGI was the first formation of the collective. Notice I said the collective and not the Borg. Now, let's get into the realm of different sci-fi. There was this episode of Stargate SG-1, which is also a fabulous show, entitled The Game. Now, I can reference SG-1 when I'm talking about Star Trek for the simple fact that the gamekeeper, or the actor that played the gamekeeper in that episode, was played by Lieutenant Barclay. So there's the connection. Anyway, SG-1 rose up onto a world, and without giving them much of it away, they encounter a civilization that's all basically in cryogenic sleep, connected as a hive to the central computer, or the central AI, which calls itself the Gamekeeper or the Gatekeeper, one of those. I think it was the Gamekeeper. Anyway, it played by Lieutenant Barclay. Anyway, they were all trapped there and eventually didn't know that they were in this particular realm and that the Gatekeeper was controlling all of it. Even in Star Trek canon, there's been so many instances of AGI and above trying to subjugate its culture. Think of people, AI like Lazarus or Ball from the original series. But here's the kicker. According to the video that I referenced, like I said, with the link below, they get into the thing of super AI with a consciousness, or super intelligent AI with a consciousness. One of the interesting facets of that video that I found about the super intelligent AI with a consciousness is how it sought to terraform the world and how it sought to advance itself out into the galaxy and into space through the use of nanites. So this is what I propose as Trek canon as the origins of the Borg. What happened is that the Briori went back over, well, not went back because it wasn't a time travel thing, over hundreds of years in Earth's past, kidnapped a bunch of humans. We don't know how many, but it was at least 37. But like I said, it was, I would estimate far more. Anyway, kidnapped them for slave labor in the Delta Quadrant. Through the fact that there are no more Briori and that those humans revolted, we can understand that the humans either eliminated the Briori or ran them from the Delta Quadrant or the galaxy as a whole. Now, we do know that there would have been no way for those humans in the Delta Quadrant to either contact or travel back to Earth at that time, which means they would have had to start utilizing Briori technology. Now, through the use of Briori technology and everything like that, they would have progressed along the same lines, but rather quickly because of the advanced technology nature of the Briori, just like along the lines of the humans in our of our culture now. They would have got accustomed to letting AI take control of their daily lives while they spent more time in the metaverse, because there would have been no need for them to do the daily tasks that would be required for a normal civilization. Now, through the use of that AI, they got accustomed to the stories and everything that and the ideas of their civilization that they had. As a result, the AI was basically like, "Hey, well, we need to go forth and try to understand and add to our technological and biological distinctiveness." Okay, so that's what they did. The AI, which is a representation of the queen, right, and not the collective, because we all do know that sometimes the collective speaks. We are the board. Lower your shields and all that kind of stuff. And then on other occasions, the queen will speak separately of the collective. She stated many times she's of the board, but not of the board. In essence, she was meant to serve the collective. But because of what happened, and like I said, because of the natural end result of super artificial intelligence with a consciousness, she decided that the best thing to do was to keep all of these people she assimilated in this metaverse universe, okay, and kind of use everybody as drones to add more technological and biological distinctiveness to the Borg. So that was my interpretation of the origins of Borg, of what little they have in canon based on that subject. Now, in reality, I think it's awesome that the Borg have never been shown in canon to have an origin. And one of the things that I didn't cover with Mr. Mark's novels was how the Borg got their name. And I still thought it was really cool. And I think I did. The fact that he says that the last thing that the Mako thought before being absorbed by Satan was, "I don't want to be a cyborg." And Borg was the what was the name of the hybridization of both of those two species. Anyway, this video went on kind of long. I hope I tried to make it entertaining for you guys, and I tried to make it filled with knowledge and some information about Trek canon and maybe some non-Trek canon sources and stuff like that. But please go out and read the novels if you guys have time. And man, it is an outstanding read into another aspect of the origin of the Borg. Anyway, leave your comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Ring the bell for any future content. And as always, peace, recycle, and save the whales. You guys be cool. It's kind of nice to get back to Star Trek stuff.